Welcome to Mindset Lessons from the Field. I'm your host, Gina Kazaza. Before we get started, quick invite to join our free Substack community. We got monthly book club. We got articles to boost your mental fitness and resilience. We got a group chat going on because growth is easier when you're not doing it alone. So come on over and join that Substack community. Also, if this show hits home, please leave a rating, share it, follow us on Instagram, hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Thank you guys so much. Now, one more thing before we dive in, quick shout out to our sponsor. This episode is sponsored by Empowered Lit Literacy and Beyond. It's a 501c3 nonprofit bringing author visits and confident building programs to kids. Right now, only 30% of kids are reading at grade level. Gosh, that's a scary number. And confidence drops at the age of 7. Empowered Lit is changing that, but it takes partners like you. Literacy is the entry point. Confidence is the outcome. Learn how to support them in the show notes. Welcome to Mindset Lessons from the Field. I'm Gina Kazaza. Can now say author of Training with the Seal because I started releasing chapters on Substack. So go over on that and check that out. Today's guest is a first for Mindset Lessons from the Field. I'm so excited. They are a husband and wife duo whose story defines resilience, recovery, and rebirth. They are the hosts of the Matt and Monica podcast, is how we met, and they have inspired countless people through their honesty, humor, and unshakable strength. Matt's past has been one of service and perseverance, from dropping out of high school to earning his GED, serving as a police officer, park ranger, and Army Reserve combat engineer, now working as an IT security engineer. Behind his title is a man who's faced deep personal loss and still chooses to rise, rebuild, and lead with heart. Monica's journey is equally powerful. Going on 17 years clean, she's overcome severe domestic abuse and transformed her pain into purpose, helping others find healing and hope through her voice and example. Together, they're proof that no matter how dark life gets, there's always a way back, stronger, wiser, and more connected than before. Ladies and gentlemen, without further introduction, let's really get into this one. Ladies and gentlemen, Matt and Monica Spellicy. Guys, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you. I'm super excited.
Yeah, appreciate it. It's been a long time coming.
Yep.
Husband, I've been trying to get you guys on the show for a while. We first connected when you guys were like 4 episodes into your podcast. It's crazy, right? And we just like instantly bonded. And I just think the world of you guys. And I remember when we first met and you guys were telling me the reason that you guys were starting the podcast and stuff. And you were going through just some rough times, especially with your divorce and your ex and all that. Joe, it was a custody battle, I think it was, right?
Yeah.
So it was a lot that was going on, and you were starting this podcast, and we have very similar guests and all that stuff. And then you guys went through a traumatic loss that you guys are, I mean, I don't know if there's a recovery. It's just, day by day, right? That we're going to talk about. But I want to start with both of you guys in terms of childhood, because what you guys have went through, Monica, with being clean and being in a domestic abuse relationship, and Matt, everything you've dealt with, and then both of you guys together with that loss that we'll talk about, you guys watching you. Now, I know that you have these struggles and stuff, but you guys show I'm going to keep going regardless of the pain I'm feeling, regardless. Life isn't stopping just because I'm in pain, right? And you guys are showing that resilience. And I just want to know, like, where does the heck does that come from? Because, so like, walk me through, did you guys have that during childhood? Did you have hardships that you built to define that resilience?
My parents were divorced when I was like, I think about 4. So I'm used to, the both sides, the split houses and all that kind of stuff, the drama that can come with it. Some of the fighting and stuff is hard for a kid to deal with, but then growing up and making some bad decisions and stuff, being in that domestic violence life for 7 years. I was in it for 7 years, which in my mind doesn't sound like a long time, but it is a long time. That alone just built armor for myself. So I feel like having a long time to teach myself how to cope with that, and when I'm feeling certain ways, what to do, how to not let it take over my life day by day. And sometimes it's minute by minute. And I felt like it just made me stronger now, because I could have went down a darker path also, or kept in that dark path rather than coming out of that. And I've had a lot of support. So it's not just one thing. It's just a lot of support that made me really, really strong to, I think, help. Like, we work so well together.
You guys do. You guys work very well
together. I
together.
my heart that we do. And we kind of, I want to say, feed off of each other's strength.
Yeah, and I feel like my childhood was different than hers. My parents were still together to this day they are. And, going through childhood, pretty average childhood, honestly, not really going through much adversity, typical stuff, losing dogs and grandparents. Aside from that, my sister, she's 5 years older than me, or 6 years older than me, rather. She went down a pretty dark path, getting into drugs at a pretty young age, about the age of 20 or so. So I would have been 14. And I remember that scaring me in a way. I say I attribute me not going down a path like that to my sister, because I hung out with everybody. I hung out with people that were doing things like that and weren't. And I always managed to just kind of keep my head clean from that stuff. Back to her, I just wanted to say I attribute a lot of my strength from her, because, going through a divorce and whatnot, that initially it was kind of an average divorce for a while, but things got messy down the road years later, which is when, we started this podcast, was just at wit's end. We had no intention behind it. We were just kind of going through a lot of adversity, and I thought to myself, let's have a conversation. We initially had no intention. We had started having conversations with just each other, recording it, posting it. Then we got some good feedback, and then I got that taste of purpose. And after I got the taste of purpose, I really started going down this path of podcasting.
I love it. Let's talk about what you guys both talked about in your own stories. Like, Monica, I'm curious about the being like sober, right? And clean, right? Being clean and getting out of domestic abuse relationship, right?
Yeah.
And Matt going through like the divorce, right? Where you said in the beginning it was like amicable, right? And all of a sudden it just took a turn, right? So what I want to know with both of you is, with Monica, like, at what point did your relationship take a turn, right? Where you realize that this is not okay, and how do I navigate that, right, to save myself? And also, I'm not sure at what point you like were clean. Where is it, like, were you going through it afterwards, in the middle of it, all that stuff, so that way you never went back, And then Matt, for you, what happened where like it just all of a sudden took a turn for the worst, and how do you to deal with that?
Okay, I feel like there's a lot I'm going to try to say kind of squished together. So for about 7 years, I was from New York to down south, and I moved a lot back and forth because my ex was from the south. And when I was in the south, I was doing the wrong things. And when I came back to New York, I was good. So when it comes down to when did I like get clean and stuff, so I did go back, so when I was doing the stuff down south and I was in New York, I was clean for a little period of time up here, and then going back, it's like, you get back into it because that was the crowd. And I couldn't really escape it down there because I didn't have any friends down there and I didn't have any family down there. So I was alone in that crowd. No support, of course. Then when I came back into everyone's like, how did you get out of that situation? And I wish I could say that it was something more than something just clicked, because something in my brain did just click. I had 2 kids that were down there at the end with me before I left. And they're about 2 and 3 years old. And I was like, what am I doing? They deserve more. And I called my mom and I was like, I'm ready. She's like, I'll be there in 2 days. And that was the end of it. I had to be smooth about it because I was scared for my life. So we just packed out of everything I've had in my entire life. It's all down south. I had to get 2 grocery bags full of clothes for my girls, and we left. And that was the hardest but best time of my life because we got out of there, and things, of course there's up and downs through those years since then, but things just kept going up because I wasn't down there. So yeah, I don't know. It's really weird to think about how long I've taken right now to heal and to conquer my demons and to get stronger. But I've had so much love and support here. It's like I'm here because I want everyone to have that support. and know that you can get out of it, because believe me, if I can, then you can. And I know that's so like cliche to say, but it's so true.
Talk about real quick the grace that you have to give yourself, because it sounded to me, and I could be wrong, but from what you said, like it's kind of hard. It might be challenging at times to forgive yourself on how long it took. From what I was gathering from your voice and stuff, I could be wrong, but
yeah.
and I can understand that because I have been in not great, like, and when I say relationships, it's anything. It could be friendships, coworkers,
Right.
anything like that, right? That's not healthy. And
Mhm.
sometimes we just like we're a little blind, or they do something and you're just like, you give them more grace, and then you end up not forgiving yourself, and you're just more like, I can't believe this took me this long. So what is a
Right.
process in terms of forgiving yourself to go, I still got out. Like, I'm like, even though it might have taken long or this, or like in my mind, meaning your
Yeah.
mind, like
Yep.
I still got out. So how do you give yourself that grace for those that might be struggling with some regret?
It's like that saying that if you knew now, or if you knew then what you know now, that changes everything, because I could give you a whole like bag full of red flags that I'm like, hello, that's like right in the beginning, red flag, but when you're in a relationship like that, human beings are very easy, especially when you think you're in love, you are manipulated and brainwashed very easily. And you think it's your fault. To this day, of course, there's still times when I think about things and I'm like, still, I have guilt, a lot of guilt. And it makes me sad that I'm like, no, everything's okay right now. I'm good and healthy. Most importantly, my kids are good and healthy, and we have a great life. And I am so beyond blessed to have this life. But like, if I stay down there, like, I don't know what it would have been like. So giving myself grace, it's like, it sometimes sounds weird to say that, because I'm going with the motions of life to try to do better every day and love people, like show light in this world. So I don't really think about myself giving myself grace, even though I can give advice and be like, you need to give yourself grace. Sometimes it's hard for me to think about that with myself.
That makes, I can understand that
Yeah.
completely. Now, Matt, let's hear your.
Oh boy, this part's a little bit harder for me to unpack, because it's difficult to, without, I guess, pointing fingers, and I just don't want to be like that. However, as far as the custody battle goes, with what I've been through in the past 3 going on 4 months now, I say to people that the custody battle and what I went through over the past couple of years was in a lot of ways more difficult than what we're going through navigating now, which we'll get to in a minute. And when I
by
tell
the way,
people that,
just tell people, like, in terms of how long was it you got divorced to when that turn hit? Like,
oh
how
boy,
many years was that? And then
so
how long was that
2014.
turn?
So that was like 2014, 2015 is when we separated, and it really took a turn. About 4 years ago, really took a turn. I mean, you could say a little earlier than that, but when I say really to the point, it became really hard to
And
navigate
it was
life for me.
unexpected for you. Was that
Oh
correct?
yeah.
Okay. Now, I just wanted to set the tone and then,
No,
get
I
into
appreciate
it.
it. Yeah. Because this is really my first time really, I guess, telling the story. So it's kind of hard. When things took a turn for the worse, I was worried about my daughter significantly.
And
About
you had
three
daughter,
kids.
son, and another son in that order, correct?
Yeah.
And just to paint the picture, what point were you guys were together during the shit show,
Oh yeah.
during the shit show of
No, that works.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
just
got
want to
together in
point, just again,
2016.
painting that picture in
Yeah.
terms of you guys were together and this, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, we've been together. We're going on 9 years now. So we were, halfway into that 9-year relationship, a little bit over halfway when we started to navigate this. And that's one thing I will say, going through a custody battle with your ex while you're in a relationship, it puts a lot of stress on a relationship. And there are 99% of the women on this planet wouldn't have put up with half the shit she's had to put up with. And it's funny because the first few months of realizing things are going in a direction, I thought there were systems and organizations that are put in place to help people and families and children specifically. And when I have went to these, I won't name them, establishments to ask for assistance, I was mind blown with mainly because I'm former military, former law enforcement, and we got a decent reputable reputation in the area of just not being a bad person or making poor choices, I thought for sure it's a wash. It's no brainer. I'll get the help that I need for my kids and you name it. It wasn't the case. And I realized very quickly it seemed to be like it was working as intended. And then when I did a little bit of research online, I'm like, wow, when I say not alone, it's not even touching it. When you go through adversity like that, that's completely out of your control. It's hard, but when you go through adversity like that not only is out of your control, but it's completely preventable from the get-go, that puts a whole different spin on it. I mean, I've been in some of these establishments, literally begging for somebody to help me and, crying. And it's mind-blowing what that could do, I guess, to your mental state, and I talked about actually my first ever YouTube video I posted. Not many people know about it because I never really shared it or anything. And it took me days to hit share on this video. It was me talking about signing myself into the for a mental health evaluation. And I wasn't suicidal. I was so worried to the point I was worrying myself sick. And I remember her saying to me, like, she's like, I'm worried about the kids or whatever, but I'm more worried about you at this point. And I was just so anxious, anxiety overridden with it. And I go into this, get this mental health evaluation, and it went essentially good. The guy, he told me, you're doing all the right things. You're just going through a lot. And I think hearing that for me, because I was so worried about them trying to give me prescriptions of, I think a lot of people nowadays, jump on, anti-anxiety medications and you name it, or they medicate themselves with their own, whether it's drugs or alcohol. And I medicated myself with physical fitness. I started running and working out and started connecting to a lot of these people that are, in the special forces community. And I guess we can get to that in a little bit. But I realized when I first started getting therapy early into this, going to therapy rather, I remember my therapist saying, she drew a circle. She's like, put things within your control inside the circle and the things outside of your control outside of the circle. Of course, I didn't listen. I didn't care. I realized months later going through the motions that I'm like, wow, if I can just not focus on those things outside of my control anymore and just focus on things within my control. And it sounds so obvious, but until you really experience it, it's a lot different. Yeah. But sorry.
No, that's great. I always tell people, like, when someone gives you advice, right? It's like, unless that light bulb moment clicks, it's like you can hear it, but you don't understand it, right? Yeah. And that's really what you're explaining. It's like, I heard it, but I didn't really understand it until it clicked and I did it. And then it's like, right. It's because I've experienced so much of that. And I want to talk about real quick, because I think some people could relate, because marriage is hard, right? Relationships in general are hard. What were some of the things that you two did during those really tough times that could have broken you to allow either to strengthen you guys and keep you guys together?
Being grateful for each other and speaking that to each other.
Gratitude and appreciation. It's always kind of been at the forefront of my mind in a relationship to begin with, but really allowing yourself, no matter how hard things get, to just, you can be intentional about it. And I've always said, a lot of people disagree with this. Happiness is a choice. Being grateful is also a choice. If you can maintain that, I believe you can kind of get through anything. I don't think there's anything really specific. We've always talked to each other about everything.
Communicating like crazy.
Good or bad.
It's almost like, I don't want to say annoying, but it's like we over communicate sometimes, and I honestly think that's almost number one, because if we don't know how each other's feeling or what we're thinking or why we're upset or, this makes me happy, you make me feel good because you did this, it's like everything. And we still do like that, cute little notes in the morning and like, funny stuff like that, which has been a long time since we've been together and we're still doing that stuff. And I think it just helps build our relationship and keep it strong and showing that we're there for each other. Like, I know he's there for me.
Her optimism, though, there is nothing like it in this planet. Like, no matter how hard things got, it'll be all right. And like, to the point it would annoy the shit out of me sometimes.
He'd be like, don't say it anymore.
Yeah. But I am so grateful for that, especially now this year.
Monica, was that something you always have done, or is that something you like developed? Like, for myself, I went through like this dark time in my life, like in my 20s, and I just wasn't happy. I was just sad and I cried a lot, and I was just at a really, really low place. And nowadays, everyone's like, why are you always happy? And it's like, well, because
I choose to be happy. Like I know what it was like to be sad and depressed, and I don't want to go back. Like I choose that. And no matter what happens throughout my day, I still am going to choose which emotion I want, right? And what I want to feel and all that stuff, right? So Monica, was that something that you learned, or was that something that you always, because some people just have that optimism in them?
I think I was born like that because when I was little, people would always call me smiley and I was like really happy and like quiet and stuff like that. But like I have been in a very, very dark place before. So I feel like that's already in my DNA, and it was kind of stripped of me when I was in my dark place. And then when I got out of that, it kind of like rebuilt itself, you know? And it sounds so funny. I just love, and I love being happy, and I love making people happy, and it makes me feel good. So it's like, I don't know, it's just who I am, I guess. And he would say that my old coworkers would be like, oh, there's hearts and stuff all over, you know, like that's how I am. And I hope it, you know, it spreads to other people. I don't know.
Now, one more question on you, Monica. I'm trying to think about how to say this. Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Life got really challenging for you guys during the custody, during that divorce and all that stuff. And what you put up with personally, you both put up with a lot. But as you mentioned, Matt, in the beginning, 90% of women wouldn't have stayed, right? Wouldn't put up with it. So, Monica, what are some things that you might have done, that you did do during that time, that helped you to stay grounded and stay in it and not leave and not quit and not do something that someone else might do? And think about someone that's listening to this, that doesn't have to be the same scenario, but like someone that's absolutely at their wits' end because of another human being, right? That's just not making their life easy. And it might be easy for you to just walk away and quit, but you didn't. And like, what is something that you have for that person that might be listening? What did you do?
I think I just know in my heart what I'm supposed to do in life, like right now, with the people that I'm with the man I'm with, and the kids that I am with. And I feel like I'm here to help them and would never like abandon them. And I know in my heart that I'm stronger than any outside force that's trying to maybe tear you down or anything. I know it's really, really hard to deal with things that are like picking at you every day and is making you sad and stressed. And you're like, I don't deserve this. I don't have to be here dealing with this. But like, if people are in a relationship with someone and they're truly happy with them, but it's just outside forces that are making it hard, like this too shall pass. It will not last forever. And that's a huge thing, because not everything will, you know, like that last forever.
The best way is always through, they say. And
yeah, you can't stop in the middle of the darkness. You have to keep going to the light.
Specific tools, though, like things that you've used, guided breath work meditation has helped immensely. And, you know, and I always say I try not to push this upon anybody, but, you know, faith is something that has helped us immensely as well.
Immensely, for sure.
It'd be an insult not to attribute anything to that as well. But
for sure. But I love Mother Nature, and I need to be outside all the time, and I hate wearing shoes. So if I just need to be like, the winter's hard for me because I can't walk around my grass, you know, and that does help me. It kind of calms me down and it grounds me. And I think being intentionally aware of everything that you're around, like when you're outside, if you're upset, go outside and look at the sky, like look up. Everyone's in their phones all the time, and that like kills us. I feel like look outside at the birds and like the wind and the grass, like be intentionally aware. And I think that would help people. And being grateful. Like I know I always bounce back to being grateful. If someone's having a hard time in a situation like I had, just take a step back and, all right, I have this, and this that are blessings in my life. I am strong, and people need to know that they can do hard things. And it's something so simple. I work in an elementary school. We're always telling kids, you can do hard things. You can get through hard things, and adults need to hear that too.
I love that message.
We're going to stop right here as we're going to give a shout out to one of our other sponsors, Fear Emoji. Quick question for you. When was the last time you gave someone a gift that actually meant something? Not another candle or another box of chocolates, a gift where every time they see it, they think of you. That's Fear Emoji. Plushies with personality. It's saying, I got this for you because you're loved. Or I got this for you because you make me laugh. You're my giggles. You're my Lulu. They are soft, they're comforting, and a daily reminder that that person matters. With Valentine's Day coming up, Lulu is the perfect gift, mini or pillow size. And yes, the pillow size is as comfortable as it sounds. It's my favorite. So go on over in the show notes and find a sphere emoji that matches your vibe, or just go to sphereemoji.com. Now back to our show.
Now, Matt, let's talk about at what point did this start to get better for you?
So actually in April of this year or so.
And by the way, and let us know like how long this lasted and then when it started to get better.
Yeah, it was a solid 2 to 3 years. I say 2.5, 3 years of just got nowhere. And when as far as if anybody's ever dealt with custody battles, they just kept kicking the can down the road. Like literally, like nothing happened for.
Were you seeing your kids?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I have,
Okay.
50% custody of the kids. Other than my daughter, she wanted to stay at mom's and whatnot, and she's, doing her own thing.
So you had 50-50, but at that point, your children were able to choose if they wanted to come over.
She was 18.
Okay.
Yeah.
She was 16 when that all happened, when she decided. So she just turned, in March, she turned 18. So when she turned 16, she was able to just kind of make her own choices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So go ahead in terms of 2 to 3 years, a real struggle. Also not having that solid relationship with your daughter. And then April is when, and what happened that might have made that change from, okay, it's getting a bit better?
Honestly, ex-wife started going to church with us about a year and a half. I'm kind of going all over the place, and I apologize. She started going to church with us about a year and a half ago, and at first.
So you make it sound funny. Not with us, but she started going to the same church.
Yeah. Right.
Just so people understand.
Yeah. And at first we were both like, what the hell? Like, we can't get away from her type of thing. And then I said to her, I remember one night, I'm like, what if, it helps her? So fast forward to April of this year, and I really think she found God per se. All the animosity, all the negativity would just seem to be gone. Co-parenting was coming back, and just everything getting much, much better. And then at the end of May, her and I were sitting with her in the court waiting room, and we were talking small talk and laughing and joking. And then we pitched it to my attorney. I'm like, what if she would be willing to just settle out of court? And we, neither one of us wanted to do this anymore. It was exhausting, I'm sure, on her end too. And I'm sure she has a different perspective that I wish I could know. So, and we did within like a few days get a letter in the mail that they dropped everything immediately. And which was shocking to me, that there was so much going on for so long, nothing was done. Then all of a sudden I pitched, hey, what if I'm willing to mediate? And which was never pitched from the very get-go. That was never, ever. I asked about it for the 2 years as well, and it was never mentioned. And then all of a sudden when it was mentioned, they did it. So things were going good. And not only were things going good with her and I, but my daughter as well. I got to see her, and I took her out to dinner, and she's talking to me on a regular basis, and she seemed to be turning things around for the better as well. Just making better life choices for sure. I'll go right into July unless you have any questions prior to then.
Go right into it. Yeah.
So in July, it would have been, July 17th was the accident. A few days prior, I got to lead up to that though. The Friday night before the accident.
Can I say something?
You can say anything.
Okay. So when his ex-wife would go to church, she always sat like kind of around, but never like kind of with us. And I think it's important to say like how bad things were. The Sunday before the accident, him and I had asked her to sit with us because she came on, gave his oldest son a hug, right, I think. And then she sat by herself like across the aisle from us. And we just felt this feeling that we should ask her. And she said yes. So she sat with us that Sunday before. And I think that shows like a huge, like the power of forgiveness and to kind of let's go on and make things right and better for everybody. And I think that's really hard for people to really understand sometimes. Like it's hard to forgive people when they've done things, and I get it. But I just think that is really important to know how important that part was in our story.
I was on Friday, that's Sunday, so you skipped.
I'm sorry.
But that happened on Sunday. But the Friday was the first Friday in over a year where when I picked up my boys, I picked up my daughter as well, and we had an incredible night. We went out and got dinner, and it was just the timing of everything. It was surreal. everything. I remember saying to her, I'm like, everything's going so good. Like all my anxieties and worries gone. Like I have conquered the storm that I was going through that I never thought would end. Because I remember at the very beginning of it, just thinking like if I knew that I would be going through what I went through for as long as I did, I'm like, I probably would have threw in the towel. Not saying I would have committed suicide. I don't know what I would have done. So July 17th, I was actually sitting at work at my desk, and I got a phone call from my son and told me, Dad, there's been an accident. And it was my youngest son. And he told me, he's like, their mom's in the car, they can't get her out. And at this point I start freaking out. I figured out where he was located, and I end up driving there. And on the way there, I have my son on my truck phone. I got her on my work phone, and it was an hour and 15-minute drive to where the scene of the accident was. And what my son didn't tell me was that it was a tractor trailer that hit her vehicle.
Did he do that on purpose to like?
No, he was
just in shock.
No. He was in another vehicle, thank God. And then, a few minutes later, 20 minutes later or so, while I was en route to the scene, a helicopter apparently landed, and he tells me over the phone, Dad, there's a helicopter, which at that point I was really concerned. Then at some point, and I don't remember what the order was, he told me that my son and my daughter were also in that vehicle. And I arrived at the scene and picked up my son. And, I remember there was this police officer that was on the scene. I just talked to him Thursday night this week, by the way. There was a police officer that was on the scene of the accident, and he just looked mortified. That was burned in my head amongst a couple other things that day, more so than anything else. And I'll get back to that. So
Can I ask you a quick question?
You can ask me anything, yeah.
So I want to know, in terms of, especially for our listeners, what did you do during that car ride? Like, was there breathing exercise? Like how, I'm sure you're like white knuckling. Like what is going on through your mind, and how do you stay calm in that hour and something drive?
I don't know how I stayed calm, because I was, and if anybody's ever had to put their four-ways on and try to beat people off the road, it's incredibly ineffective. Is all I could think about was getting there to my son. And he would, for how bad it was, honestly, with him being as calm and collected as he was, it gave me no excuse to freak out.
Okay.
And which that kind of applies to my entire persona, I think, now as well. And
Monica, you were on the phone the entire time.
Yeah.
And what was going on in how were you feeling, and how are you in terms of allowing yourself to maybe not, go into a spiral?
I was pacing a lot, like walking a lot, and just listening for any sort of instruction, because I didn't know what to do. Because I'm
a pacer too. Like when things are,
oh my gosh.
It's just,
Yeah. And it was really hard, because I was like, do I go there? What do I do? Like, I didn't know what to do. So I was just waiting for him, listening to him for any sort of anything. There was probably 10 minutes at least where maybe he wasn't even talking to me. Yeah. I was just there in case he needed anything.
Sorry. Now you hit to now.
No, you're fine. When I was walking up to the scene is when I overheard, they said that my son, Tyler, who was 16, he didn't make it, and my ex-wife also didn't make it. They were killed on impact, and my daughter was being airlifted. It was one of those things where I think even now at this point in my, going on 3 months or so, a little over 3 months, where it's like, it's surreal. And it was surreal. I ended up picking my son up from the scene and driving to go pick her up from the house to go to the hospital while my daughter is being airlifted there. And that was one of those things. I've never been around anybody in the hospital where they're not conscious, and like she was. And she ended up being in the hospital for about 3 weeks in the ICU, and then she ended up succumbing to her brain injuries. During this time, which I think is really relevant, because I guess I had a lot of my feelings hurt outside of dealing with those feelings that were incredibly hurt. Was like, I felt like there were people that were judging how I was handling things. Like I think maybe it wasn't the next day, but like 2 days later, I went out for a run, and I think there were people that were kind of judging that I wasn't at the hospital in the ICU and my daughter because I was running. But people don't know, I was at wit's end. I'm like, I just lost 2 of my kids, and my kids are my world. But that was what I chose to do to hopefully handle myself, because I didn't know anything else. I like to say I could have been face down with a bottle of booze in my hand, and nobody would bat an eye. Nobody would blame me under those circumstances.
Let's talk about that for a hot second. How did you know that were people saying things to you and making comments on that? And then I find it interesting and a good perspective on how no one would bat an eye or say something if you coped another way, but you coping by just going for a run and doing something in a positive way for yourself, people are judging.
Yeah, because I posted on social media. I think I said, be your very best in your darkest moments or something like that, because that's something I heard from somebody inspirational that's really stuck with me. So I think it was the combination of like me doing what I was doing, whether it's running or whatever, or posting anything inspirational while going through such a traumatic event. I think people just were quick to jump on that to judge it. I had like one person really say something. Somebody else kind of insinuated that somebody else said something, but it was enough for me to know. And of course, I've always been stupidly insecure to begin with, so I'm always worried about judgment. Ironically, especially being in the podcast realm, it's putting yourself out there. It's really easy to be worried about judgment.
So let's talk about that, because I think that that's a relatable thing in terms of being insecure and judging. And Monica, I'm not sure if it's something you deal with, or if you're like not as much, but
not like that at all, really. Yeah,
that's a good balance by the way. But so how do you deal with living? And I want to know from both perspectives, right? Because one has a more insecure perspective, right? And one not as much. And I want to know, because again, there's audiences that are relating to both of you guys.
Yeah.
So what I want to know is, how do you personally move past that judgment, or how do you not allow that judgment to affect you? Or if you do allow that judgment to affect you, how, like, what do you do?
I think like anything else, I think it's going back to the best way is through the storm, not running away from it. I think facing your fears, in whether it's public speaking, which I'm also terrified of, which we've done a little bit since we started doing this venture, has helped me more than anything. Or going on that retreat, with Kevin Stark, that retired Navy SEAL, which was on your podcast as well. What a great way to really try to fix what is wrong with you. Because in my opinion, that's a flaw, because confidence is so damn important. And I'm trying to instill that in my son now, and I have in all my kids. But, surround yourself with people that are, what I used to say, I would put myself on a pedestal, or put other people on a pedestal, and I'd be like, I don't deserve to talk to these people because they're so much better than me. And now I've changed the way I look at things like that. I think some people just have tried way harder than I have at life. And I'm 38. I could start trying hard now, is my logic.
Yeah, I feel like everyone is at a different point in their life's journey. So like people that he might hold really, really high, like we're all human beings. We all put our pants on the same way, but they're just doing something different. They might have a different job or different hobbies and doing just a bunch of different stuff that he thinks is like awesome, which is really cool, but at least he can look up to them.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. I always tell people, like, I could care less what you're saying about me,
Right.
and if it's not in my way to get where I have to go, like, it's behind me, and I don't, you're behind me. I'm not turning around to listen to what you have to say, right?
Yeah.
I'm just moving forward. And, because everyone has something to say. Everybody has an opinion, and you're going through a tough time. I remember seeing what was going on, going like, good for you guys for the way you are, because it's hard. I mean, it's losing child is the most soul crushing thing that any human being can possibly go through. And you guys coped or still, you're coping in a way that is more beneficial to your mental health and your body and your mind and your spirit. And also that sets an example for your son. Because let's now talk about that. Yeah. Let's talk about like, you have it's 12, right? It's 12. Yep. And then also, let's not forget about Monica, your 2 kids, who I'm sure this is affecting as well, right?
Yeah.
So how do you help them, as maybe there's people that are listening that want to know, like, how to help the children that are still here, right? And how do you guys continue to also be vulnerable and also be strong to get through what you're going through?
So one of the first things I said, this is 2 days, I think, after the accident, I said to my son, I'm like, this is going to do one of 2 things, and there's no in between. This is either going to make us or it's going to break us. I made an agreement with him, and I'm like, we're going to him and I and the rest of our family, we're going to talk about things that make us sad. We're not going to bottle them up. We're going to talk about memories, and we're going to talk about them. We're going to look at pictures, and we're going to do all that so much to the point we'll be smiling more often than we're crying. And I'm an emotional guy. I cry all the time. I'm shocked I'm able to get through this far without. And there's going to be a lot of hard days, and there, and I almost feel guilty because like I have so many good days, even since, there have been very, very hard days too. Ironically, like last night into today, like I was like, almost going to message you and be like, I don't know what it was. I had a really rough night last night for some, just memories. I find that talking about things and just being super vulnerable, no matter how stupid it may sound, has helped me immensely. I think luckily, we went through the last 2 years of hardship. It's almost like, I believe, go way back actually to her going through her adversity. I believe she was meant to go through that for her to be strong enough to help me through this custody battle. The custody battle, I think, strengthened all of us. It farther strengthened her. It strengthened me enough to teach me, like, you'll be all right. I don't care what is thrown at you. You're going to make it through this. No matter what, I've always been stable enough to the point I've never thought about throwing in the towel. I've always wondered, man, like, where is the end? Where's the break in the clouds? And I think that everybody's going to get knocked down at some point in their life. If you can somehow have that mindset prior to going through adversity, which I don't know if it's possible, because kind of like we were talking about earlier, like you can give somebody advice till you're blue in the face, but until they really experience it and live it, I don't know. I think kids, the school systems may do a lot of things right, but there are things to do wrong. I won't go there, but there's certain things that I should have been taught at a young age that I was never taught, whether it was by my parents or the schools themselves. Like I never heard the word adversity, I don't think, growing up, or if I did, it was very little of it. If our youth was taught that adversity will make you stronger, but it's a choice. It's not just, adversity is not just going to make you stronger. It's then you got to make positive choices, and you can't blame the adversity that you've been through on the negative choices that you make. Because I don't know how many people are alcoholics or drug addicts because, I had a hard childhood, or I had a husband that beat me, or I did this. And I have, as far as I'm concerned, I've been given every excuse in the book to just go down a negative path. But why not use it to make really good impacts on this world that needs it more than ever?
Nicely said. That was nice. Yeah. I think no matter what people believe in, whether it's God or the universe or something, like the universe is for you, like wants you to succeed. And I think as long as people have their faith in something positive, you really can't go wrong. You just have to have that perspective of, like you saying, going through hard things, you can go down this path or this path. And it's very easy to go down the dark path. It's very easy, it's like saying it's really easy to go get a pizza every night. It's harder to go running 8 miles every other day or almost every day and training a dog to go with you. It's hard, but the hard things, that's a life. Like you just get so much more out of it. And I think
do something hard every day.
Yeah, I just feel like society makes it like, we have like Instacart or whatever now instead of going to the grocery store. Like that's weird.
Everything's comfortable. It's very,
right. You don't have to leave your home. Right.
Yeah. And it's just so funny because with that comfort, people just find more things to complain about, which I find very ironic, right?
More judgment on other people. Yeah. And I think a lot of times too, society makes it like if you have a problem, it's really hard to, like, people don't understand that it's okay to talk about it. If like, I feel like going to therapy is okay. Like everyone could go to therapy. We're all going through crap, every single one of us is going through something hard. And people, it's like they want to keep it secret that they are going through anything hard. It's like throwing everything on Facebook saying my life is perfect. Well, it might be great, but there are hard times too. And I think that's making other people sometimes not the person's fault that they're just sharing like the good stuff, but it makes some people feel bad. Like, is my life not that perfect? Yeah. Which everyone has the ups and downs.
100%. Yeah. I love that. Okay. I have a question for you guys. This is a really intense question. If you do not want to answer it, I understand. Okay. And I could be wrong from what I was reading regarding the accident. So I don't know how accurate I am. And then I want to ask you this question, and you could pass if you choose. Okay. When I was reading about what happened to your family and everything, it said something along the lines that your ex-wife was driving, correct?
Yeah.
That she didn't stop or something, and that it wasn't the fault of the tractor. How do you, now, if that is true, I am, from the news, I just know sometimes it's not accurate. How do you forgive when you're like, this could have been prevented and I could still have my family? And how do you move past and forgive and not play the what if game that we all tend to play?
Yeah.
So I'll definitely answer that. I actually, even when I read that, I didn't care at all whatsoever, and I mean that. And I've even went to the extent, I've told people, like, if the whole situation was different and the tractor trailer driver was texting and driving and hit her head on and that was the cause, I still wouldn't be upset at him. Like, nobody's perfect, and whether she stopped or not or whatever happened, it's not going to change the outcome of the situation. Yeah, it's weird, and I'm different than other people because there are a lot of people I feel like that are out there that they want to jump on something to be upset about or blame or whatever. They just want to play the blame game, but it doesn't do any good, and it's not going to change the outcome of an already negative situation. I think that's just adding more negativity to the situation.
And I also think, regardless of how severe an accident could be, accidents do happen all the time, and people don't mean for that stuff to happen.
And furthermore, like that intersection specifically, and that type of intersection, I couldn't point fingers. You know how many times I have thought, oh, that's just an always stop after I'm in the middle of the intersection, or I've done stupid things countless times throughout my entire life, driving especially. So
yeah, but talking about the forgiveness thing about what happened, like, we know that wasn't even on purpose for the truck driver or his ex-wife. And she would never do anything like that to harm her kids. Like, that's crazy. You know what I mean? So, like, the forgiveness thing is like, it was an accident.
It's funny because, well, it's not funny, but
I know what you mean. Yeah.
I lost my grandma when I was 18 from a drunk driver. And the girl I was 18 at the time, obviously I just said that, and she was 20. And she wasn't 21, so she wasn't legal to drink. She blew, I think it was like 3 times the legal limit, and she had a suspended, she didn't have a license. So she shouldn't be behind the wheel. But when that happened, my grandma was instantly killed. I remember like saying to my mom, I'm like, I hope she's okay. Like, in terms of forgiveness, right?
Right.
It's just, and a lot of my family was like, she needs to rot in prison. Like, she took a life. And I understand both sides.
Yeah.
To me, it was, what if that was me? People make mistakes. And unfortunately, it was my best friend, my grandma, who passed from this tragedy. However, looking at it from the same thing of, it was poor decision making. Yes, it could have been prevented on our end, but what if the roles were reversed and it was a sibling of mine or something like that? And then, you just hope that they learn, right? And there's forgiveness. And I think that it takes a very special person because I feel like we live in a world these days of blame. We live in a world of victim mode, right? We don't want to take accountability. We'll want to blame others. We want someone to be angry at. And how do you guys cope and not turn it? How do you guys have a very good way of being victors, not victims? And I want to know, like, how you guys allow yourselves to be in the victor mindset, because it's very, very easy to be in the victim mindset, right? And it's easy to suck yourself into that and not pull yourself. It takes a lot of strength to pull out of that. And I want to hear from you guys on, especially people that are listening to this that might be in victim mode. Like, how do you get into victim mode? How do you not go down the blame, the judgment, all that anger?
I think you have to be disciplined enough. Maybe discipline's not even the right word. You have to be able to take a step back and look at yourself from a third person perspective. Because I think in order to make any change, you have to be able to do that. I don't know what it is that finally clicks for people, because I've seen it in being 38 years old, where somebody is in a complete victim mentality where they blame the world for all of their bad issues or everything that's happened to them. And I've seen it switch for people, and all of a sudden you notice they're an entirely different person. And I think when people do make that switch and they realize when you're intentional about that, it changes every aspect of your life. And I've always, and it sounds like I'm getting off on a tangent, but I'm kind of not. I've said kind of recently, go like a week and treat everybody you know with love and respect. Like, and I know a lot of miserable people. I'm sure we all do. Most people, a lot of people are just not happy, or whether they're at work and they hate their job. And I don't care how negative environment you're in, just be positive and be nice to everybody for a week, and like just watch your life transform. And I think then it's like when you're able to do that, you're almost like encapsulated by it, where you want to continue doing that. And it might take effort at first, or you might catch yourself being a, bitch to somebody or rude to somebody for no reason, or somebody's it gets you the wrong coffee, or like today they made my sub the complete wrong sub. And I don't know. I didn't even bring it back. I just ate it. But
so it's like you control your reaction to whatever happens to you, because you can't control what happens to you. So you have to, it takes a long time. It's taken me years to kind of train my mind in thinking, okay, this happened to me. How am I going to respond? And it's hard to take a step back, because you have to be aware that you need to take a step back.
Life is
it's like, yeah.
Sorry, life is what, 90% your reaction and 10% of what happens to you.
I think you're right.
And I think that's everything. Like she said, you can only control your reaction to things. There's going to be so many things that happen outside of your control. But if you can control your reaction, nobody can take that away from you.
Yeah, and I also think it's so small. Like if someone's really rude to you and you're nice back, no matter how hard it is, and you can kind of switch their thinking, that's going to give you this bolt of like positive energy. And you're like, wow, being kind, it's like killing with kindness. Like thing is kind of true, because you can shift someone's whole day, where if they were miserable to everyone, but if like they saw you and you kind of just tweaked a little something, that could change, their day or week or life.
I always say like it costs nothing to smile, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I used to, when I was like really down and I was at that low point, I would smile and inside I was like, you're faking it. You don't even mean it. Like, you'd rather cry. And I would just be smiling because I'm like, we're going to fake it until we feel it. Right. And then another thing too is like, I remember working at this job that I despised, mainly because first of all, it was an ends to a means. And one of the managers there was just picked on me like relentlessly and was just so mean. And I remember just being like, you know what, just smile. And anytime she says something negative, just be like, Thanks for letting me know that. Thank you. And just like, or like, okay. Said thank you and okay. And that was the two things. And within a month of just smiling and saying those two things, next thing you know, she's like my best friend. Right. And it was all, and then our whole relationship changed. But it was because like I wasn't feeding into it. I was just like, you're not affecting me. And by me smiling and just cutting off the energy by just saying okay or thank you, it was like, it's something shifted within her that then was like, nothing's because I think people also want you to react. They want to react.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Right?
Definitely.
And just you, and I think the thing too is like with you guys, and I could be wrong, but putting yourself through hard things allows you to understand yourself better and allows you to not just only understand yourself better, but you learn to control yourself more. Right?
Yeah.
And that's a gift that people don't give themselves. And I want to know from both of you, what are some things that we can do on a daily basis to tackle those challenges that are inevitably going to come our way, right, through life? So what should we do or what do you believe we should do on an everyday basis to be able to handle that?
I'm trying to think of the admiral's name. Oh man, I can't. There's a
McCraven?
famous quote. What's that?
Admiral McCraven?
Yeah, he was the one. I believe it was him. He had this quote, if you want to change the world, start by making your bed.
Make your bed. That's him. Yeah.
And it's funny, and that strikes a nerve. I said that to my kids for the past probably like 4 or 5 months, before the accident. And it took a while for them to actually start doing it. And I had to adhere to that too, because I never made the bed. It was 99% of the time it was her.
Yeah.
And I think getting that consistency first, starting your day with an accomplishment, no matter how small, it doesn't matter how small. Especially if you're going through hard times and you're having a hard time accomplishing anything, you can be intentional about doing something that's very quick and easy. And then you really can kind of build off of that. I've been strangely consistent with my physical fitness. I've gotten to the point where I've been pretty consistent about running, 7-8 miles, probably 3-4 days a week. And I believe physical fitness is right in along with spiritual belief and whatnot. I think it's so darn important, and the consistency is everything. And if you're not able to do that, I think there's other things you can do. You can be intentional about what you're absorbing. I believe everything you're doing, everybody you're talking to, everything you're watching, whether you're scrolling, change that from negative stuff, whether it's, in my opinion, media and like politics and stuff. Just you can be intentional about watching stuff that's, whether you're learning from it or just sheer positivity, especially media. But that's one of the biggest things that's helped me, I think, over the past like 6 months, is just I don't pay attention to anything politically related or anything.
We don't watch the news. We don't watch TV. We don't feed into any of that stuff.
Stick with podcasts.
Yeah. Yeah, positive ones. Yeah. I think for me, just getting on with like, if you're having hard times, like, is that what you were asking? Like,
yeah, every day, like what can we do on an everyday basis that that allows us to handle those challenges that come our way, like to gear up. Essentially, we're gearing up for those challenges that are going to come our way.
For me, which I don't even know if you really probably know this, but I guess like personal reflection. Like at the end of every day, seeing how my day was, I just think about like how I reacted to anything, to people or situations that I was in or anything like that, whether it be at my job or in the store or at home with my own family. Just seeing like what I need to work on and just focus on those things and being like, all right, well, you did good with this too, because I think people need self-love too. And I think self-care is so important that like we don't really do that anymore. Like not us, but just, society in general. Like self-care is kind of like non-existent, I feel like. I think it should be pushed more. Like your fitness or eating healthy or meditation or nature stuff, or if people like to paint, journal, whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
But personally, my personal relationship with my religion or spirituality has really, really helped me a lot.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier the guided breathwork meditation. I think it was mainly in the SEAL community. Breathwork is a pretty big thing, but I used guided breathwork through a VR application called Trip, and it was so darn powerful for me. It goes back to consistency though, and sometimes it's a lot of work to throw that thing on your head and force yourself to cut 15 minutes or however long you do it out of the day. And you heard that the slogan throughout the military: in order to be mentally tough, you got to be physically tough. And I think they do go hand in hand, and you really can't have one without the other. I can't personally. I notice my anxiety and any sort of fear about the future whatsoever is so much better when I am working out and being able to sweat out that cortisol.
Thank you guys so much. It's been a real pleasure talking with you guys. I'm so glad we finally got to do this.
I know. Makes me happy.
It's been a long time, so I'm just grateful to have the opportunity to not just talk to you, but also call you guys my friends, because I find you both very inspiring. And for anyone that is listening, check out their podcast, the Matt and Monica podcast. We do have very similar guests, but we do have a lot of the same guests, but we talk very differently. So if you liked one of the guests that we've had on Mindset Lessons from the Field, I encourage you guys to go over to their podcast and listen to that same guest, because you will get some more insightful things that are going to help you to build that mental toughness and that resilience that we talk about. So, and I also appreciate you guys being so vulnerable, because I know it's not an easy thing to talk about. So thank you guys again for being on the show.
Thank you so much.
Gina, thank you so much.
Listen, everyone that's listening, like, share, comment, subscribe, become a Substack member for all the extra goodies that only our Substack members get. And I'll see you guys all next week. Thank you.
And buy her book. I love your book.